January 7th, 1943. Nazi-occupied Forest, Nazi-occupied Belarus. Hannah Weiseman is 16 years old when she realizes tonight might be her last. Not from fear. She lost that luxury months ago, but because she finally understands what it means to be hunted. The Nazis aren't just killing Jews anymore. They're erasing them, wiping every trace they ever existed. And Hannah, the girl who dared guide fugitives through frozen mountains, has become something more dangerous than a military target. She's become a symbol. That frozen morning, checking tracks near the partisan camp, Hannah sees something that stops her heart. 3 pairs of German boots. Heavy, deep, methodical, less than 2 hours old. These aren't regular soldiers. These are trackers, professional manhunters. And trackers mean one thing. Viktor Hartmann has arrived. For 3 weeks she's heard that name whispered with terror. Viktor Hartmann, SS Oberfeldwebel, the man who swore to capture the Jewish partisan girl before winter ends. Not because Hannah poses real military threat. She's a teenager with a rusted rifle, but because her existence is an insult. A 16-year-old Jewish girl defying the Third Reich, guiding fugitives to salvation, evading ambushes. For Hartmann, capturing her isn't a mission. It's personal obsession. Hannah crouches, touches one boot print, still soft, not frozen. They're close. She stands, looks east where forest grows denser. 3 kilometers away, the shelter where Tobias Grun and 14 partisans wait, where 11 fugitives they rescued huddle in darkness. 6 children, 3 women, 2 elderly men, all Jews, all condemned if Germans find them. Hannah closes her eyes, breathes deep. She thinks of her mother Ruth, dragged away by German soldiers one October dawn, screaming her children's names. She thinks of Daniel, her 12-year-old brother, who took a rifle butt to the head trying to defend her. She thinks of her father Samuel, the watchmaker who never returned from Minsk. And she thinks of the 23 people she pulled from Nazi grasp in 2 months. 23 lives that without her would have ended in mass graves. She won't let Hartmann destroy that. When Hannah reaches camp 40 minutes later, Katya Novak stands guard. 19 years old, tall with feline movements. Katya was first to believe her when Hannah arrived at the forest months ago, eyes red, clothes torn, begging to join resistance. 3 trackers, Hannah says breathless. Heavy boots, fresh tracks, coming this way. Katya whistles twice, signal everyone knows. Imminent danger. Tobias Grun emerges, followed by Jurek Abramowitz, 18-year-old messenger who's risked his life carrying information between partisan units since occupation began. How long? Tobias asks. 2 hours, maybe less. No time to evacuate everyone. Children are weak, elderly can barely walk. Moving in groups through snow leaves tracks visible from kilometers away. There's another option, Hannah says firmly. I go east, leave clear trail, trackers follow me. Meanwhile, everyone else moves north in silence. When they're safe, I disappear into forest. I know these trees better than any German. No, Tobias says. Too risky. Everything is too risky, Hannah replies. But at least this way everyone has a chance. Katya stares at her. She knows what Hannah's doing. Not blind courage. Calculation. Sometimes one life offered in sacrifice can save many others. If you do this, Katya says slowly, promise me something. Don't let yourself be captured. If they surround you, if there's no way out, use the last bullet on yourself. Understood? Hannah nods. They both know what happens to captured female partisans. Both know being Jewish makes that torture worse. Give me 30 minutes head start, Hannah says. Then move fast and quiet. No emotional goodbyes, no embraces. In forests of Belarus, winter of 1943, those are luxuries no one can afford. Hannah adjusts her cap, verifies 3 bullets. Left in rifle, disappears between trees heading east. Running between frozen trunks, deliberately leaving visible tracks, Hannah thinks of her father's words. Life is like a clock. Every second counts and no gear more important than another. If single piece fails, entire mechanism stops. She's that small piece. Not strongest, not most important, but one that can buy time for rest of mechanism to keep functioning. She runs 15 minutes without stopping, leaving trails so obvious even a child could follow. Breaks branches, leaves marks on trunks, tears fabric from her coat and hangs it on bush. She wants trackers to find her, but not too quickly. When she stops to catch breath, she hears it. Dog barks. Distant but unmistakable. Germans use trained shepherds to track fugitives. Those dogs found her trail. Come for me, she thinks. Let the others escape. But what she doesn't know is Viktor Hartmann didn't send just 3 trackers. He sent 2 groups, one following her trail. The other, led by Erich Voss, advances in parallel, anticipating exactly what Hannah tries to do. To understand how Jewish teenager became personal target of SS officer, we go back 6 months. German occupation of Belarus began June 1941. Within weeks they established regime of absolute terror. Before war, 375,000 Jews lived in Belarus. 10% of population. Communities with synagogues, schools, traditions reaching back centuries. June 1941, all that began disappearing. Einsatzgruppen, mobile SS death squads, followed German army systematically executing Jews, communists, anyone considered enemy of Reich. No trials, no warnings. They arrived at villages, gathered all Jews, shot them into mass graves. In Minsk, they created ghetto, imprisoning more than 100,000 Jews. When ghetto became too full, Germans organized actions, took thousands of people, shot them in forest. In midst of this hell, some Jews made radical decision. They wouldn't wait for death. They'd fight. Only place they could do that was forests. Soviet partisans established hidden bases, launching attacks against German convoys, rescuing fugitives. But most didn't want accepting Jews. Too weak, too old, too many women and children. This created tragic situation. Thousands escaped ghettos seeking salvation but were rejected by only groups that could protect them. Some partisans even denounced them to Germans or left them to die. In this context, family camps emerged. Jews organizing on their own, not military units, survival communities. And in one of those units, Hannah found her new home. Hannah wasn't born partisan, born into modest Jewish family in Lida, small town west of Minsk. Father Samuel had watchmaking shop. Mother Ruth sewed dresses, not rich but lived with dignity. When Germans arrived June 1941, everything changed within days. First restrictions, then mandatory yellow stars, then confiscations. Finally, August 1941 came ghetto. All of Lida's Jews, more than 7,000 people, forced into tiny area surrounded by barbed wire. Samuel tried maintaining hope. Ruth sewed in silence, but Daniel, with brutal clarity only children have, said one night something none wanted to hear. "They're going to kill us all, aren't they?" October 1942, rumors began circulating. Germans planning action. Some young men talked about escaping. Older ones begged them not to. Germans will take reprisals. If you escape, they'll kill our families. Hannah didn't wait. Night of October 15th, 1942, Hannah told her mother she was leaving. "I'm going to find partisans. When I find safe place, I'll come back for you." Ruth looked at her with tear-filled eyes. Didn't try stopping her. "When you get out," Ruth said, "don't look back. No matter what you hear, just run." That night, Hannah slipped through hole in barbed wire, ran barefoot through snow with only clothes on back and photo of her family, didn't look back. What Hannah didn't learn until 3 weeks later was at dawn next morning, Germans surrounded ghetto and began action. More than 2,000 people murdered that day. Among them were Ruth Weiseman and Daniel Weiseman. Samuel sent to Minsk, never returned. When Hannah learned what happened, she didn't cry, didn't scream, simply sat staring at fire and said, "What do you need me to do?" Katya Novak responded, "We need you to survive. Then help others survive too." That was night Hannah stopped being frightened teenager and became partisan. First months Hannah did basic camp work but learned fast. Jurek taught her moving silently through forest. Katya taught her surviving winter. Tobias taught her thinking like guerrilla. December 1942, unit planned rescue operation. Tobias needed volunteer to infiltrate village and do reconnaissance. Dangerous. Hannah volunteered. Germans don't suspect teenage girl, she said. That night, Hannah walked alone toward occupied village, heart pounding but mind clear. Past German soldiers who didn't even look at her. Observed patrols, counted guards, returned with precise information. Operation was success. Rescued 23 people including 8 children. No partisan died. After that, Hannah became unit's primary scout. And that's when Germans began noticing her existence. Reports reached Viktor Hartmann's desk, 34-year-old career SS officer, obsessed with efficiency. When he read about 16-year-old Jewish partisan girl, something ignited inside him. Wounded pride, teenage girl making his regiment look bad. Hartmann called Erich Voss, his best tracker.
I want that girl, alive if possible, dead if necessary.
Now, January 17, 1943, with Hannah deliberately running east, Voss is less than 2 kilometers away. Hannah runs 20 minutes, reaches rocky cliff. Looks down. Germans 500 meters away. Then sees another silhouette farther west. Second group. They anticipated her strategy. She crouches behind rock, rests rifle in crevice, waits. First German appears, young. Man, perhaps her age. One dog pulls at leash. Hannah aims, breathes deeply, pulls trigger. Shot resonates like thunder. Soldier falls. Suddenly, entire forest explodes in gunfire. Hannah rolls backward, begins running south. Bullets whistle around her. Then feels sharp pain in left shoulder. Branch tears coat and skin. Stops gasping, looks back. Then hears voice behind her. Calm, almost kind. Don't move. There, 3 meters away, stands Erich Voss. You're younger than I thought, he says in German. 16, 17, barely child. Hannah's hand moves toward rifle. Don't, Voss warns. I'll shoot you before you lift it. Oberfeldwebel Hartmann wants to meet you, Voss continues. Personally, I don't see what's special about frightened girl in middle of forest. I'm not frightened, Hannah responds in perfect German. What happens next is so fast Voss has no time to react. Hannah doesn't try reaching rifle. Instead throws herself forward, not toward Voss, but to right where terrain descends sharply. Lets herself fall, begins rolling. Voss fires, but bullet lost in snow. By time his men arrive, Hannah already disappeared. Next 4 days, Hannah completely alone in forest. Sleeps in holes dug in snow. Eats tree bark. At night hears patrols passing nearby, more than once less than 50 meters from discovery. 5th day she hears familiar whistle. Jurek Abramowicz emerges, face gaunt, eyes red. Been looking for you 4 days. Thought they killed you. Almost, Hannah responds. Back at Camp, Tobias informs her. Refugees made it safely north. 11 people alive thanks to you. But Germans haven't stopped looking. Hartmann posted reward. Over following weeks, small group continues operating. Hannah becomes soul of group because she refuses to surrender. April 1943, Hannah guides 18 fugitives toward larger partisan unit. Last time she acts as guide, because that night, returning to forest, she falls into ambush. Simple infantry soldier finds her, 19-year-old, named Hans Muller. Points rifle, orders her to command post. Hannah doesn't try escaping, simply stands, looks him in eyes, says, My name is Hannah Weiseman. I'm 16, I'm Jewish, and I've saved more than 60 people from people like you. Shows him photo of her family, all dead. Your people killed them, not because they were criminals, just because they were Jews. Hans Muller looks at photo. Something inside him moves, lowers rifle. Go, he says quietly. Didn't see you. Hannah runs, never sees him again. What she doesn't know is Hans Muller would be shot 3 days later for desertion. War ends May 1945. Hannah survived 3 winters in Belarus forests, guided more than 70 people toward salvation, seen almost everyone she knew die. When Soviet troops liberate region, Hannah is 18 but looks 40. She tries returning to Lida, finds nothing. House occupied by another family. Synagogue converted to warehouse. Father's shop now hardware store. Hannah doesn't stay. In 1946, emigrates to Palestine. 1949, meets David Lev, Auschwitz survivor. They marry. have 2 children. Call them Samuel and Ruth. Hannah doesn't speak about war for years. But 1961, when Eichmann trial is broadcast, something changes. She begins speaking, gives testimony before Yad Vashem, speaks for 6 hours without stopping. Over next decades becomes one of most important voices of Jewish resistance. Gives lectures, participates in documentaries, writes memoir titled Among the Trees. Hannah Weiseman dies in Tel Aviv, April 12, 1998, at 72. At her funeral, more than 200 people attend. Many descendants of fugitives she saved. On her headstone, her children engrave, Hannah Weiseman, 1926 to 1998. Guide of the lost, voice of the silenced. Below in smaller letters, 70 people, 70 lives, 70 futures. Today in Yad Vashem Museum there's photo of Hannah, 17 years old, taken just after liberation, face gaunt, eyes tired. But there's something more in that. Look, determination, defiance, unshakable certainty that surviving itself was form of resistance. Hannah Weiseman's story isn't story of perfect heroine. It's story of girl who had to grow up too fast, who made impossible decisions, who lost everything and still kept going, who understood true courage isn't absence of fear but decision to act despite it. Her name was Hannah Weiseman, and this is her story. Story world tried burying, but thanks to those who refused, forgetting stays alive. Not in marble monuments, but in each descendant of those 70 fugitives she saved, in each person who hears her story and decides hatred won't have last word. That's victory of Hannah Weiseman. Not that she survived, but that she made others survive with her. In world that tried erasing her existence, that's most powerful form of resistance that exists.